All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's session. We will begin today by looking at this topic here, and the link will be in the description. We're going to be talking about performing analytics in Power BI, and we are going to see how to perform data analytical functions. And these are some of the things we are going to be talking about. As usual, that's the detail of what we'll be doing. And then at the end, there is an exercise. But I'm going to be doing the demos to show you some of the things that you need to know. And there are some demos I'm going to do that you will not find in the exercise. When I get to those demos, I'm going to urge you to pay attention because they are important. Okay, so we will begin today with the analyze feature. So what is the analyze feature? Well, we use the analyze feature basically to compare data. So the first thing I'll mention about the analyze feature is we use it to compare data. So it's for data comparison. So that's what it does. Now, it's built into Power BI and it uses automated AI powered insights. What the AI powered insight helps you to do is to compare data directly in your visual. So it takes the standard process of data exploration and interprets the data in addition to just exploring the data. So it looks at the factors behind any trend you have in your data. Maybe there's an increase in your data or a decrease in your data or any form of distribution that is unusual. It's going to go ahead and do that without you having to do any manual calculation. And that can be very, very important. Okay. Now, before we go on, I want to quickly show you something in the lab environment, and that is I want to show you how we can publish our report. If you did the report, if you completed the report uh, last time, this is what your this is what your Power BI environment should now look like. This is the first page, which is the overview page. That is the second page, which is the profit page. I didn't do this one, but this is what your my performance page should look like. Okay. So, and that's where your drill through page should look like product details. Now, for us to publish this report to Power BI, first we have to sign into Power BI, which I showed us how to do yesterday. And we want to go ahead and save this report. I just go ahead and save it. And all we've got to do is from the home ribbon tab in the share group, I'll go ahead and click on publish. So if I go ahead and click on publish here, it prompts me, do I want to save the change? I say, okay, save. And then there is a workspace here, which is this one. This is my workspace here. Let's quickly go there and see before we publish that workspace is blank. There's nothing there because we've not published anything there. Take note that this is the Power BI environment online, okay, which we also signed into. Okay, so to publish, we'll just go and select that my workspace, and I just go ahead and click on select, and it goes ahead to send all of the things that we've done to Power BI. That's the online environment, the Power BI service, which is the other component of Power BI that we've been talking about. Now it's published it. It tells me, okay, it succeeded. I'll go ahead and click on got it. And I'll go back to my workspace. All I've got to do now is just to refresh. And once I refresh, we can see that our workspace that was once blank now is, of course, is now populated with our report. So if I click on this report here, it goes ahead to load the report. And we can see all of our hard work is now available on the powerbi.com site where we can do a lot of things. You are quickly going to notice that our drill through page is not visible here. Okay. we see if we come here, this product details page that is hidden is not available here. Okay. And that's because this is supposed to be a view for those that are going to be consuming our report. So if we did everything correctly and we go ahead and click on bar chart, this stays the way it is. If we click on column chart, this changes. Okay. If we click on bar chart, this is what happens. If we click on column chart, that is what happens. So if we did our assignment, if you will, correctly, this is what should happen. But that's not what we are going to be starting with today. We are going to be looking at the analyze feature. And we said that the feature is built in and it gives us some automated insights. Instead of probing our data to understand why there was a specific occurrence, the analyze feature allows us to right-click a data point and ask Power BI to explain the change. Now, typically here, if we look at our visual here, we see that we've got a lot of highs and then there's a low. We've got another set of highs and then there's a low. So one of the things we might want to do is to interrogate our data to find out what is going on here. So if we right-click this point and we click on analyze and we ask it to explain this decrease. Can you please put your mic on mute? And we ask it to explain this decrease. If I go ahead and click on explain decrease, it's going to go ahead and run. It's going to go ahead and do all of the things that we should have done manually. And then at the end, it's going to give us some detailed explanation as to why there is that dip. So we can see here, it tells us, for example, England, British Columbia, and Washington have the largest decrease among state provinces. So it goes on to tell us a lot of things. We can actually select different kinds of visuals that's going to be giving us some more insights like that. Okay. So it tells us why this happened, giving us a visual to explain it. If we scroll down, we can see for sum of sales, and we can go on and on and on and see all of the things. So it gives us an interactive visual. In this case, we have different kinds of visuals. We can have, for example, this kind of chart, which is a waterfall chart. We could also have a scatter chart. We could have a 100% stacked column chart, and we could also have a ribbon chart explaining what happens. Now, it also gives us an automated exploration. If we choose any of these options, for example, this one, it tells us it evaluates the data and it compares all of the data points within the neighboring surroundings. And of course, the result is gives us a new visual, and the default visual there usually would be the waterfall visual. And of course, gives us which categories or measures are responsible for the change that we've observed within our visual. So that can be a very, very, not just powerful feature, it can be something that will save us a lot of time. Because if we had to probe through our data using it will mean that we have to dig in and try to find out what's going on. Okay, so why should we use the analyze feature to compare data? Well, the first thing is it's fast, it gives us speed, and it's easy to use. So instead of writing complex DAX measures or manually filtering the data to try to understand the change, we can get automated and immediate insights, which can be very useful when we want to quickly answer questions. Like if we want to answer a question, why do we have the spike? We just go ahead and analyze and click on explain the increase, and it goes ahead to give us all of the details why there is an increase. It gives us a whole lot of details, and it gives us the option to look at the details using different kinds of visuals, which can be very, very, very useful. Again, it's interactive, of course, because we have a visual explanation. It supports further interactions. Now we can combine it with our standard report elements, allowing us to drill into specific comparisons that is going to be enhancing our overall, well, data storytelling. And it leverages lots of data, specifically current data, historical data, and it ensures that the insights are always very relevant to what we are trying to do and all of that. So the analyze feature is really, really, really important for us in this scenario. So let's move on to the next thing that we will be looking at. So that was the analyze feature. Let's go ahead and see another very important aspect of data analysis, which is understanding outliers and seeing what outliers actually mean. Okay, so outliers will be the next thing we are going to be discussing. Now, identifying outliers is very important. Uh, and it helps us to spot, well, deviations that might indicate different kinds of things. These deviations could mean there are errors in our data, it could mean something unusual happened, or it could even be something that has happened that is useful that we failed to see. Okay, so what are outliers? Now, outliers basically are deviations in our data trends. And these deviations are unexpected, as in we didn't know they existed, so they are there. Okay, so the deviation could be caused by a number of things. One of the causes could be errors in measurement. Okay, so measurement error can cause it. So that's one thing that can cause an outlier. It could be caused also by unexpected events that will want or will warrant some more detailed explanations or detailed investigation. It could also be a natural variation that usually will reveal trends or clusters that might not have been immediately visible. So, the goal here will be to identify these abnormalities or anomalies so that we can analyze them further and decide whether to correct or to exclude them or to use them to understand the different aspects of our business. So, how do we detect outliers? We'll typically be detecting outliers using scatter charts like we see on the screen there. Now, scatter charts are very intuitive visuals in Power BI, especially when we intend to detect outliers. So we'll be plotting two variables. It's going to plot each record as a point. It's going to have coordinates on two numerical variables. For example, we could plot maybe in this case here, we've got number of orders on the vertical scale, and then we have the order shift on the horizontal scale, for example. And like we can see here, while most of the orders plot generally around here, we can see there is an outlier here, there is one here, and there is another one here. So that indicates that something is going on, and we want to go ahead and find out exactly what that something is. And that is why we will be using outliers. And why do scatter charts work very well? Well, because scatter chart, like we can see, gives us immediate visual feedback. Once we do a scatter chart, it allows us to quickly spot anomalies. Like we've got an anomaly here, we've got an anomaly here, and we also have another one here. Those are major ones. And then we can see we even have some anomalies that are not, well, very major, but we can see if we are going to be considering all of these lines, then everything that plots outside of that area is going to be considered an anomaly. Okay, so how can we spot outliers? Like I said, we will be spotting outliers through the use of scatter plots. So we're going to go ahead now and see how to create or how to identify outliers in our chart. So I'll head back to our environment here, and we want to go ahead and see how we can spot outliers within our data set. So I'll go ahead here and just create a new page. And in the new page, I'll just go ahead and maybe rename it scatter chart. For example. So we have a new page called scatter chart, and I'm going to expand the visualization pane here. And we want to see add a scatter chart. That's it there. I'll go ahead and add it. And I'm going to expand it to fill most of our page. Okay. All right. So what next do we want to do? We're going to add the appropriate fields to the x-axis, to the y-axis, to the legend, to the size, and to the play axis. Okay, so those are the things we want to do. So on the x-axis, we'll just expand this, expand sales, and then drag sales to the x-axis like that. So we can see the x-axis, we've got sales. And then on the y-axis, we want to go ahead and add sales, profit margin, to the y-axis like that. All right. So that's we've plotted the x and the y axis, and then we want to the legend add reseller business type. So I'll go to reseller, and then I'll go to business type. I'll add that to the legend, and then for the size, I want to go to sales and quantity. So I'll go to sales, and then I'll go to quantity. I'll add that to the size. What that definitely means is that, of course, the bigger the size, the bigger the quantity of sales. Now, there is a play axis that is also available because I want to animate this. So I'll go to the play axis. I'll just scroll down here a bit. And then to the play axis, I want to see how all of these trends per quarter. So I'll go to date and quarter, and I'll add it to the play axis like that. And if I come here and click on play, it will go ahead and animate. Basically, as all of the data points are moving, we see some changes. So it's telling us how each of these sales and the quantity is trending, for example, per quarter. Now, I could also filter if I wanted to. So I'll come to filter here. And in the filter pane, I want to add product and category. So I'll go to product, and then I'll go to category, and I want to filter it on this page. So I'll go ahead and add that. And if I want to look at a specific category, because I want to zoom in on that, I'll go ahead and click on bikes. So what that means is I want to see how the sales and the quantity of bikes are trending across maybe a specific period. In this case, the play axis is quarter. So if I go ahead and animate this again, I'll just reduce this. I'll go ahead and click on play again. We are going to see exactly how that is going on just for bikes only. Okay, so that's what the animation is telling us. And as we see the animation there, of course, it indicates how it has trended. So if I click on a specific point, we can see how that point has trended over the specific period and category that we have been interested in. If I go ahead and click another one, we can see what has happened there. And then, of course, we'll go ahead and click another one. We can also see how that has happened there. If we want to know the specific ones, for example, if I hover over this, it tells us the business type, the sum of sales, the profit margin, the sum of quantity, and the quarter. So it gives us a whole lot of at a glance information by just hovering our whatever right there. Now, another thing we could also do with Power BI is to create a forecast. Now, we can create a forecast, and to do that, I'll go ahead and add a new page. And again, if you guessed it, I'll rename it and call it forecast. For example, so I'll call that forecast. And I think I got my spelling wrong. I'll rename that to forecast. Forecast has got an E somewhere. Okay, so yeah, that's forecast there. Okay, so we want to call this forecast, want to do a forecast. So want to forecast to determine possible future sales revenues. So to this, I'll go ahead and add a line chart. So I'll go ahead and add this line chart here. And as usual, I will try to expand it to fill the entire page. So I want to create a forecast here. So I've expanded it. And then I want to add the appropriate fields to the x-axis. Of course, if we are forecasting, we usually forecast based on date. So I'll go ahead and add dates to the x-axis. All right. And then to the y-axis, I'll add sales. I want to do a forecast of sales by date. So I'll go ahead and add sales, and it gives us a whole lot of things. Now, in this case, I want to filter by year. So I'll go to the filters pane, and for the date year, I want to filter by year. So I'll go ahead and filter on this page. All right. Okay. And I want to do a forecast for 2 years. So I'll go ahead and select the year 2029, 2019, and 2020. Okay, so that gives us, well, something that we've got here. Now, I want to add the product category field to filters on this page again. So I want to also filter not just by year, I want to filter also by product category. So I'll go on to product and category, and I'll go ahead and add also. Did I get that? Oh, sorry. Let's take this up and bring this down a bit. Okay. And I'll drop this here. Hey, what's going on? This is sum of sales. Let's see. I want to. Okay, so I want to. Okay, I want to select bikes. Yeah, so bikes. I added it the first time. So that's going to give us a forecast for bikes. And to add a forecast here, there is another pane we've not talked about, which is the analytics pane. So I'm going to click on it. The analytics pane is available. Sorry, the analytics tab is available on the visualizations pane. So we see this magnifying glass icon. I'll just go ahead and click on it. Okay, and then we want to do a forecast right there. So I want to come and expand the forecast section, which is this. I'll come there and expand the forecast section. And we want to turn forecast on. It's currently turned off. I'll go ahead and turn it on. Okay. And I'll now specify some parameters. For the units, I want to specify months. For the forecast length, I want to specify 1 month. For the seasonality, I want to specify 365. Sorry. And then for the confidence interval, I want to specify 80%. Okay. And that's basically it. If I do that, I'll come here and apply. And you quickly see, let me just collapse this, and collapse this. We'll quickly see here that it gives us a forecast and it uses all of the historical data to tell us that. So the gray area represents the confidence. If the confidence is wide, that means it's less stable and less accurate. So when we know the length of the cycle, in this case, the length is annual, we should enter the seasonality points. Sometimes it could be weekly, which is 7. It could be monthly, which is 30, for example. So if we go to the filters pane and want to filter basically by clothing. So I'll go ahead and uncheck this and check this. It actually gives us the forecast for clothing. Okay, so that's how to forecast. And let's go back and see some other kinds of visuals that we can use and some of the things that we can do with those visuals. So we've looked at outliers, we've looked at forecast, we've looked at analyze. Let's go ahead and look at some of the more AI related kinds of visuals. And let's go ahead and look at a visual called the key influencer. So I'll go ahead and we'll talk a bit about the key influencer and what it does. So the key influencer is another kind of visual. It's an AI powered visual this time. Because it helps us to identify specific factors that are driving different kinds of variations for a specific kind of metric. So what it does is it analyzes and highlights the most significant contributions to changes, making it easier for us to understand why certain outcomes occur. Okay, so the key influencer automatically would detect relationships between a target metric and other visuals in the data set, and then it's going to rank the top factors that impact the metric. It's going to be showing us how each factor contributes to the variations. And then, for example, if we are trying to analyze customer churn, that's the rate at which we get and lose customers, the visual could reveal, for example, that things like the length of the contract and maybe the service rating of the customer could be the strongest predictor of churn, for example. Now, how does it work? We want to select a target metric, and then Power BI is going to analyze the data set and identify the key drivers. And then it's going to present insights in two views. The first view will be the key influencer view, which we can see here, available as a tab. Let me just take my marker there. Yeah. And then the second one will be the top segment, also available as a tab. Now, the key influencer displays the top contributors that is affecting the metric. And then the top segment will group data into segments that share characteristics that are similar. So why is all of this important for us? Now, the key influencer visual has a lot of benefits. It allows us to make decisions based on data, helping us to understand what drives success or what drives failure. It also eliminates the need for manually analyzing anything, and it identifies trends that can be leveraged for strategic planning. So let's go and see how we could use the key influencer visual. So I'll go ahead and create a page, rename the page, and call it key influencer. So let's go ahead and take notes. This is not in the instructions for the lab, so you might want to pay some additional attention here while we talk about the key influencer visual, for example. So I'll just collapse this and expand the visualization pane here. And we will see, for example, the key influencer visual. Okay, so the key influencer visual is going to be on the visualization pane. And in a minute, I'm going to show you what it looks like. So yeah, that's it there. That's the key influencers visual. So I'll go ahead and like before, I'll go and add it and expand the visual to fill the page like that. Okay, so we've added the visual. The next thing we want to do is want to add we want to add the appropriate data to the well. So we can see we've got an analyze well, an explain by well, and an expand by well. So these are the things that's going to be helping us to answer questions. For example, we want to analyze sales, profit margin in sales. So I'll go to sales and I want to analyze profit margin. I want to see what influences profit margin. And then I want to explain profit margin by reseller business. For example, let's go to reseller here, and we can go ahead and include, want to explain it by business type, for example, and we want to also explain it by geography, for example. So if I come here and add geography, we want to explain it by geography. And then we want to also expand it by sales and quantity. So if I go to sales and then I go to quantity, where is it? Yeah, I want to expand it by sales quantity like that. So it goes on to run the analytics. Okay, it tells us what influences profit margin to, for example, increase or decrease. If I say what influences profit margin to increase, it tells us, for example, some of the things. So we know that the key influencer here first is the focus, and the specific influence is set to understand what influences profit margin to increase. So here now, if we look at it for a specific city, when we say when city equals to Bothell, the average of profit margin increases by all of that. Okay, it increases by that percentage like that. And business type in value added reseller also increases by this amount, for example. Okay, so if we want to look at what influences profit margin to decrease, it goes ahead to run some analytics in the background and it gives us some details right here. Now, for us to detect the segments, we can go ahead and click on top segments, and it tells us that we found one segment and rank them by average profit margin and population size. So if we want to see more details, we can go ahead and select a specific segment, and it gives us all of this detail here that have been extremely difficult for us to have to do manually. So that is the key influencer visual. Now, before we go for today, we'll talk about another kind of visual. And the visual we are going to be talking about here is the decomposition tree. Okay, I think we'll talk about another one after the decomposition tree. We'll talk about the decomposition tree. So let's see how the decomposition tree visual works. Of course, like we did previously, we'll talk about it and then we'll go ahead and see how we can use the decomposition tree. So the decomposition tree too is also a visual, allowing us to understand data hierarchies. So it allows us to explore patterns and to conduct in-depth analysis and to do that dynamically. It also allows us to break down a metric across multiple dimensions, meaning that it's very, very good for root cause analysis and ad hoc exploration. If you have done some project management, this can also help you to find out specific things to understand what exactly is going on. So the decomposition tree allows us to drill down into data step by step using a hierarchical structure. We can choose the order of exploration. It's going to be giving us a lot of flexibility in how we will be analyzing relationships between different kinds of factors for our visual. For example, if we want to analyze sales performance, we can drill down by region, by product category, by salesperson, allowing us to understand some variations. Now, it also automatically aggregates data, which makes it easier for us to understand trends. That means the grain of the data is going to use is going to be large. What that means is it might not be looking at our sales data by month, sorry, by day or by week. It rather will be looking at it at on a monthly, on a quarterly, on a half yearly, or on an annual basis, for example. Okay, so it does aggregations. So we can expand this mode dynamically, selecting the dimensions that I want to drill through next. So we're going to see how we want to set up the decomposition tree. So again, we will go to our lab environment. I'll create a new page and I'll rename the page and call it the composition tree, for example. Okay, and again, if you guess what I'm going to do, and that would mean adding the visual, then you guessed right. So I'll go ahead and look for it, and I think that's not it. I always mix, yeah, that's it there. That's the decomposition tree there. So I'll go ahead and add it. That is the decomposition tree. Let's be sure. Yeah, that's the decomposition tree. So again, like usual, I'll go ahead and expand the visual to fill the page. So that's the composition tree there. And we see that it's got a number of wells. It's got the analyze well, the explain by well, the tooltips well, and all of that. So we can go ahead and add all of the things we want. So we want to analyze again sales and profit margin. We want to analyze sales and profit margin. That's what we want to analyze. Okay. And we want to explain it by the reseller geography. So I'll go to reseller geography. So I want to explain how geographic, how where the reseller is located controls sales. And of course, for those of us in sales, we know that there's usually a geographical control for how quickly we can sell. Okay, so we'll go to the filters pane now. And for the filters pane, we want to look at our data by year. Okay, so remember we said that usually there is an aggregation for the composition tree. So go ahead and go to dates and year to filter on this page. So I'll add this here. And then I want to look at our data for just the year 2020, for example. So I'll just go ahead and select 2020, for example. Okay. So if we look closely, we can begin to see a lot of things going on. If we see profit margin, let's see if I can zoom this in. Let me collapse all of this and try to zoom it so that we don't have. Okay, so I'll zoom this a bit and let's see what happens. So we can see a profit margin there. We can see we're having a negative profit margin. Now, one of the things we want to do is, since at the organizational level, profit and loss is aggregated such that we will look at the profit or loss at the organizational level, sometimes it becomes very, very important to drill down to see which components of our organization are actually contributing most to the profit or to the loss. Okay, so we want to click the plus icon and we want to select something from the context menu. So we'll go ahead and click on high value. And clicking on the high value gives us some more details here. So we can see, based on geography, we can see all of the different resellers. We can see the resellers here by name. So if we hover over it, it tells you hometown riding supplies. It gives you the profit margin. It gives you bikes that is making a profit. If we look at all of these, we see that they are all making profits. Okay. And the composition tree here presents resellers ordered from highest profit margin at the top all the way down to the ones that the profit margin is not as high. And we can even see, if we click and click, we can see that there are other resale outlets that have even lower profit margin, for example. So to remove the level at the top visual, of course, we can go ahead and remove it to remove the level. So if I remove this, that level is removed. Okay. We could also look at it in another way by clicking on that, and we want to look at it by country region this time. Okay. So at country region, we can actually see now, it gives us some pictures that are a bit clearer. We can see at the country level, we've got some negatives right there. Okay, so let's go to the United States where we've got some negatives. I'll go ahead and click that plus sign there. And let's go and look at it at another level for the United States. We'll go ahead and click on state. Oh, sorry, not city. I'll go ahead and remove this. I'll go ahead and look at state province first. And that allows us to further drill down. Okay. So we can use the arrow to look at the state province, and let's go ahead and look at the states that are not as profitable. So I'll go ahead and go all the way down, and we can quickly see here that we've got some states that are not very, very, very profitable. Okay. So if we go all the way down, we can see that we've got a few states that are quite unprofitable, and we can actually drill down now for those states and look at look at it at the reseller level. That's going to tell us which of these resellers now contributed most to the non-profitability of our organization. We can see that while at the Oregon level, there was a net loss for the entire state, we see that a few of the resellers made some profit. We can see Superior Hardware Distributors made profit. Suburban Cycle Shop also made profit. And then, of course, if we go all the way down, we can now see that this particular one here, Family Entertainment Center, made, well, some loss. We can go again and drill down in another way. For example, if we go all the way, and we can come here and see, go all the way to the city level, it shows us the city, and then we can go on to the reseller level, and it shows us the reseller. So that allows us to drill into our data to be able to see exactly where we were making profit if we are trying to analyze profit, or we were making a loss if that is what is of interest to us within our organization. And before we go, we are going to see another AI powered visual, which we are going to be looking at here. And that one is very, very interesting. It is called the Q&A visual. Q&A there means question and answer. It is also an AI powered visual, and it allows us to ask questions about our data in plain language, and it allows us to also receive insights instantly, making data exploration more intuitive, and of course eliminating the need for complex queries or manual report building. So what it does is this: it uses NLP, or natural language processing. So what NLP here does is that it allows us to write or to ask questions of our data as though we're chatting with a human. So I can just come in there and, for example, ask any of these questions, like top reseller, state province by minimum price, and it's going to give us all of that information and even create a visual for it. But this works only in the service. It works only in the Power BI service. That is, it works only for the online version of Power BI. It does not work in Power BI desktop. Okay, we'll see more about the Power BI service when we talk about dashboards. And that is the reason why, of course, we went on to go ahead to create or to upload our data to the Power BI service. So let's go ahead and go to the service. And right here, we see that if we come to our workspace, we see the report there. We can actually, for example, create a dashboard of this report. This is not supposed to, for example, be a comprehensive treatment of dashboard creation. But let's quickly pin this visual onto our dashboard. So to pin a visual, you hover over it. You just take your your mouse over the visual, and you are going to see a push pin here. Okay, I'll go ahead and pin the visual. Okay, and I'll create a new dashboard called, well, dashboard. Okay, I'll go ahead and pin, and I want to go to the dashboard, and here we see the visual in a dashboard. We'll talk a lot more about dashboards in future, but you quickly see here, ask a question about your data. So if I come here and click ask question about your data, it gives me suggestions which I can quickly pick. I can pick any of them. I can say top reseller by sales percent country. If I click on that, it goes ahead to, well, generate a visual for me. Okay. And it did all of that without my having to do anything. Okay. I could have simply come here and said, for example, sales YTD FY 2020, for example. Just do that. And if I enter and there is a data point, we can see it just gives me the data. I don't have to know SQL. I don't have to know DAX. I don't have to know anything. I just have to know how to, ask the appropriate questions of my data, and it gives me a result. And giving me this result here still allows me to pin this result to a dashboard. And if I go to the dashboard, we can see here that I see the sales profit margin, which is the original visual I pinned to my dashboard. And this one comes from a result of the query as well. So that's about it for today. I'm not going to take more of your time. So thank you very much for your time, and I hope you learned something. We're going to be meeting again in the next session. See you by then.